In this video, we're going to talk about an Advantech IoT-IO module. The Advantech module allows you to connect to a lot of different stranded assets that you have at your facilities, things that aren't wired into your PLCs. If you want to capture some information and bring that information into your Wonderware InTouch system or into your historian for reporting, or push it up to the Wonderware Cloud Historian. So we're going to dive in the configuration of this module, how to connect it to the Wonderware systems using the Wonderware IO servers, and get that information to the people that need this data. In order to configure this module, we're going to need to put it into a wireless mode that turns it into a Wi-Fi hotspot so we can connect to it and enable the configuration. So there's two switches on the back of the module, put them in the down position, and then repower the device, and then this will be available as a Wi-Fi hotspot that you can log into. So once I repower the device after setting those switches, the device is going to show up when I browse my different Wi-Fi hotspots. You can see here there's this WISE device, so I'm going to connect to this device, and it's going to make the Wi-Fi connection to the actual Advantech module. So at that point, I can actually go in and connect to it. The default login would be basically an IP address 168.1.1, and then the account that I use here, admin, and the password in this case, the default password would be 8 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's going to log me into the module. So once I'm in the configuration of the module, I drill down into the configuration tab, and this is where I need to go and set the wireless infrastructure up. So I want to go into infrastructure mode, which means it's going to connect to the Wi-Fi hotspot. So I give it the name of my Wi-Fi hotspot. I give it the security type that I'm going to use to log into that hotspot, and the security key. So this is the place where you actually, when the device is out there on your plant floor, this is the wireless connection it's going to make to be able to connect back to your infrastructure. I'm going to need to give it an IP address. I can set that up for DHCP if I like, but I have some hard-coded IP addresses here. I'm going to give it a gateway of my router so it can connect to the network, and then submit that. So now we have the hotspot configured. We need to power the device off. The switch is in the back. We need to put in the up position, then repower the device on. Then this is going to connect to the Wi-Fi hotspot that we configured and assumes that IP address that we configured. So then we can connect to it back through this IP address that we configured, the 1021.99.88. Log in again. So now we're logged into the device through the hotspot that we previously configured. So now we have the device on the network, we can actually go check our I/O status. In this case, I have some analog inputs wired up to the device, 2 analog inputs, basically some light sensors and a solar sensor. And you can test that information. You can test to make sure that it's working locally at the device. I'm just changing my analog input value here, and you can see that change on the screen. So this is a great little tool to make sure that the actual module is running and up and running. I can see this module here on the bottom. If I click channel number 1, I can see that I can add some signal information there, and I can see that on this device. So it's a great tool to be able to troubleshoot. If I'm not seeing my analog signal, one of the first places I'm going to go locally into the module, make sure everything's wired up before I try to connect it to my Wonderware system. Another nice feature that we have inside this module is the ability to actually trend these signals. There's a built-in little trend tool that I can look at to see the data. So you can see I'm changing the data here, and we can trend that data on this screen just as another method to prove that my module is wired up properly. I'm getting good signal into the actual device to be able to see what's going on before I actually connect it up to the higher level system. So now that we have the module itself configured, we're going to talk about how to configure the Wonderware side to be able to connect to the module and bring data into your Wonderware system, whether it's InTouch, whether it's Historian, or whether it's Historian in the cloud. So what we need to do is open up the System Management Console. We installed the Modbus driver so the WISE module can speak Modbus communications over TCP/IP. We drill down into the Modbus and go into configuration here and set up a TCP/IP port. And I have something here configured, this Advantech WISE Solar. and I chose a Modbus PLC as to type. When I choose a Modbus device, I have the ability to say I want a Quantum PLC or a Momentum PLC. I chose a Modbus PLC, and then I put in the IP address of the WISE module that we previously configured. We pretty much take all the defaults that come with the setup of the Modbus PLC except the IP address. And then we need to create a device group. We give it a name of WISE, and we give it an update time. How often we're going to go out and pull this information. And optionally, we also gave it a device item. So this is basically a lookup table that I can reference these signals either from the item reference, which is the actual Modbus register numbers, or through a name. So this is an alias table. If I want to reference it by the name LightSense, I can. Internally, the driver is going to convert that to a 40,002 register number and pass that on to this device to get the information. So you can see here is the device mapping. This is the register numbers that we're looking for in the WISE for the 2 analog input signals. So we found the mapping information in the WISE module under the IO module mapping table, and you can see here's the 40,001, 40,002 associated with the analog input channel 0 and 1. And this is the register numbers that I need to address this device by to extract the information from the WISE module. So once we have the configuration of the Modbus TCP OI server ready to go, I would have to activate it and make sure I connect to the actual device. One thing I would do is I would kind of right click here. I would configure it as an automatic service. So if this computer ever got rebooted or something happened to the driver, it would automatically restart and connect to the WISE device. Then I would kind of right click on this and make sure I activate the server, so it's going to bring it online and trying to go out and make a connection to the actual Advantech module. So I'm going to use this tool WW Client to go out and connect to it and verify we have a good connection, make sure the driver is configured properly to see some good data. One of the first things I'm going to need to do is create a connection to this Modbus TCP driver. The node name I'm going to leave blank because I'm on this local machine. I'm going to put in Modbus TCP here as the actual application name, and I'm going to put in the name of the topic, which is the device group that we configured inside, and we had this defined as WISE. And I'm going to connect through IoT, which is our SweetLink connection. I'm going to say create done. So now I have a connection from this client tool to the actual Modbus driver. So once I have a good connection to the driver, I need to go put in some addresses that I want to pull from the device. I've already put some things in here. I have solar volts. I'm going to say register advise. You remember we had that in our lookup table that equates to item number 40,001 is the actual register number in the PLC. So you can see I'm getting good live data coming from my solar volts. If I want to go here, look at my light sensor, I can put in that name of light sensor and advise that. And you can see I'm getting good data from those devices from the WISE module. I'm going to change the inputs a little bit. I'm going to make it a little darker on those solar devices there. You can see they're going down. If I add more light, you can see those values actually go up. If you remember, I said that when I created these device items, they're optional. I don't have to put in that alias lookup table. If I wanted to reference these through the actual register number itself, I could do that. I'm going directly to the 40,001 and the 40,002 register number there, and you can see they're also reading valid data. So either way, if you wanted to have the symbolic name, if you will, and use that as the reference to the actual device in the Advantech module, you can do that, or you can reference it by the actual register numbers themselves, the Modbus registers in that PLC device. So once we've proven that we can connect to the WISE module wirelessly to our field devices and bring it into Wonderware system using SweetLink and test it out with the Wonderware client, then any other Wonderware piece of software should be able to connect to these devices and display that information, whether it's in touch. So you would do the same type of configuration that we did in the WW client. You would point to the device group and the item name either through the register number or the actual alias table and bring that data into InTouch or the Wonderware historian. We're going to have a subsequent video talking about how to take some of this data and push it up to the Wonderware online historian. So look for that out there on the site. Well, thank you for watching today. If you need more information on anything you saw in this video, please contact me via email at the address shown on the screen. Thanks again.